His inability to say words sometimes worries me tremendously. He is having trouble word finding when he said United States instead of United States. These aren't words. These aren't slips of the tongue. These are words he can't find them. And this is happening over and over again. Comedians joke about it, but it's not a joking matter. I think there is a neurological issue that is not being addressed.
Señores, Donald Trump está cayéndose a pedazos, literalmente, frente a nuestras narices. Y por fin algunos periodistas están empezando a hacer las preguntas correctas, las que deberían haber hecho hace meses. Preguntas sobre su salud, sobre lo que realmente está pasando detrás de esa fachada que intentan mantener. ¿Ustedes se acuerdan hace unas semanas atrás cuando Trump fue al hospital militar de Walter Reed? Recordemos que su portavoz Caroline Leavitt salió corriendo a decir que solo era un chequeo anual. Pero a ver, eso no tiene sentido. Recordemos que en el mes de abril ya habían publicado el informe, que era rarísimo por cierto, donde aseguraban que Trump estaba en excelente forma física. Es más, lo demostraron diciendo que él gana torneos de golf. Literalmente, amigos, ese fue el argumento médico. Es más, yo recuerdo que en aquel momento yo les dije que eso no parecía un reporte médico real. Y bueno, al tiempo cambiaron la historia. Y ellos dijeron que los problemas visibles, esa mano inflamada, los tobillos hinchados, las venas, se trataba de insuficiencia venosa crónica. Según ellos, por dar muchos apretones de manos, ¿no? Nada de mini derrames ni problemas cardiovasculares. Luego, para rematar, anunciaron otro chequeo médico. Primero era el anual, y luego dijeron que este era un semianual. Ni el propio Ronnie Jackson, su antiguo médico, sabía de qué estaban hablando. Pero bueno, lo más sospechoso fue que en el informe mencionaban algo que no es nada común, y es imágenes avanzadas. Ese fue el término. Yo les digo así de antemano, eso significa, imagino yo, resonancias o tomografías. Algo que, recordemos, no se hace en un chequeo rutinario, ¿no? Así que muchos en el momento nos preguntamos, ¿por qué le están haciendo eso? Y bueno, pues, el día de ayer, una periodista tuvo el valor de preguntarlo directamente. ¿Qué fue esa imagen avanzada de lo que tanto hablaban en el reporte médico? Y claro, Caroline Leavitt intentó tapar el sol con un dedo.
Any more details on the president's Walter Reed visit? The readout from his doctor mentioned advanced imaging. What procedure was he referring to?
Advanced imaging is something that presidents receive and people receive when they go to the doctor. And so we provide a detailed readout of that physical, and I would encourage you back to that. Presidents and I don't know the exact imaging that.
Luego de decir eso, al parecer se dio cuenta de que metió la pata. Así que trató de compensarlo con un poco más de propaganda, ¿no? Afirmando que el presidente está en excelente forma. Es más, ustedes lo ven todos los días. Y bueno, así respondió.
As the physician's note said, the president is in incredibly good shape, and I think that's evidenced here every single day.
Y bueno, amigos, ahí está. El reporte del 10 de octubre de 2025, mencionando claramente las supuestas imágenes avanzadas. Algo que, por cierto, les repito, no tiene nada de normal. Cada vez es más evidente. Y ojo, no es mi opinión nomás. Bueno, creo que muchos también lo notan. El cerebro del trumpismo ya no está funcionando bien. Quiero que miren esta conferencia de prensa reciente. Donald Trump rodeado de Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem, el secretario de guerra Pete Hegseth y su jefe de gabinete. En medio del discurso, él empieza a decir que, como el gobierno está cerrado, un donante anónimo le dio $130 millones para el ejército. Y mientras él lo dice, mira hacia su alrededor como si esperara que alguien confirmara su historia, ¿no? De verdad que me dieron, ¿no? 130 millones. Amigos, las caras de los que los rodean lo dicen todo. Ahí Pam Bondi, Kristi Noem parecen petrificadas y Pete Hegseth tiene esa expresión de otra vez está delirando. Miren ustedes.
He doesn't really want the recognition, if you want to know the truth, but he gave us a check for $130 million.
And that's going to go to the...
Which was sort of a shortfall, yeah. And that's going to go to the military, yeah.
And what's your message?
Is that the correct number? $130 million. That's what I call a patriot. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Por si fuera poco, en la misma conferencia, Trump dice la palabra cartel, alguien inventó esa palabra. Y luego dice, no voy a decir quién la inventó, pero carteles son malos. ¿Quién inventó la palabra cartel? Qué lógica la que tiene este hombre. Miren ustedes.
We have cartels that, you know, somebody came up with the word cartel. I won't tell you who that person was, but you got a lot of bad people in the cartels.
Y bueno, ya no solo es la prensa la que está haciendo preguntas. Incluso hemos visto a gobernadores demócratas señalando lo obvio. Por ejemplo, el gobernador de Illinois, J.B. Pritzker, dijo este fin de semana que es evidente que Donald Trump tiene una capacidad mental reducida. Y lo más triste es que la gente a su alrededor lo permite. Y amigos, tiene razón. Todos vimos las miradas vacías de su equipo, ¿no? En ese clip anterior. Nadie se atreve a detenerlo. Lo único que hacen es sonreír y fingir que todo está bien.
Let's go at something that's related but slightly different. I mean, you appear to be, I guess a way to put it is under the skin of Trump's anti-migrant czar, Stephen Miller. He called you a moron who hates America. You mentioned him a few times today too, saying he has abused the fact that Donald Trump has diminished capacity. You brought him up a couple of times, which was interesting. But what did you mean by that?
Well, I'm very plainly, it's clear that Donald Trump has diminished capacity, which I think is sad, you know, that the people around him are not getting him help, and instead they're just taking advantage of him. And that's what Stephen Miller is. You can tell, you know, his rhetoric is so out of bounds. And then we know that he's the one who is advising Kristi Noem at DHS. He's the one who's advising Tom Homan, who's the kind of immigration czar, deportation czar. And of course, he's the spokesperson for this entire endeavor, including about deploying National Guard into cities. So, I mean, it seems like a dangerous individual, and he has the power of the presidency because the president isn't reining him in. And so that's why I'm talking about Stephen Miller.
Y bueno, pues ahora viene el bombazo porque el Daily Beast publicó un artículo contundente. El colapso cognitivo de Trump es evidente, dice un psicólogo. La periodista Joanna Coles entrevistó al Dr. John Gardner, ex profesor de la Universidad Johns Hopkins. Y bueno, él dice que Trump muestra un incremento masivo de síntomas clínicos de demencia, agravados por su narcisismo. Discursos sin sentido. Confusión constante, olvidos frecuentes, según él, signos de un deterioro cerebral muy grave. Es más, advierte que tener a alguien así, con el maletín nuclear, es un peligro real. Miren ustedes.
The other thing, though, about his recent talks is we talked about his confusing Harvard and Harlem. Recently, he's been confusing India and Iran. You know, he's been talking about Pakistan being at war with Iran, and he's trying to broker a peace. And he says Iran several times when he's talking about India.
As an example, if you look at Pakistan and Iran, I told them I was in the midst of negotiating a trade deal with Iran, and Pakistan was going to be in line.
Well, Chris, what do those two countries have in common? You know, they begin with I. Right. Sort of like Harvard and Harlem. So that's the level of free association we're talking about.
And is that just because he's the president and he's got a lot of details to keep on top of? I mean, I agree that getting India and Iran confused is potentially a deadly mistake. But is there any benefit of the doubt you could give him that he's, trying to master a ton of detail here.
Well, look, as an older person, I tend to give people a lot of benefit of the doubt. I mean, even on my own podcast, sometimes I say, oh, yeah, the person from Germany, what's his name? Then we have to edit that out. But he tends to mishmash them together in a way that shows a deeper level of thought disorder. For example, the other thing he was saying about India and Pakistan is he's saying, well, then I think he's starting to say India now. He's saying, well, India's had a lot of change of leadership. They haven't really been stable. That's true of Pakistan. It's not true of India. So first he confuses their names. Then he confuses the countries themselves, their political leadership and their history. So it's one thing to get a name wrong, maybe even to reverse it, although that still seems very rare, but he's actually confusing the countries themselves. Another example of this kind of really clearly demented memory loss would be when he was negotiating the government shutdown. He met with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, right, the minority leader of the House and the Senate. And he said, I had a talk with, Chuck Schumer, and he brought a very nice man with him who I didn't know.
He didn't know Hakeem Jeffries?
Yeah, he knows Hakeem Jeffries. Okay, he's not an obscure congressman. He's the minority leader. He deals with him on an almost daily basis. This is like when you go to visit your mother in the nursing home and you bring your sister and she goes, who's that nice lady that you brought with you? Oh, honey, that's your daughter. That's my sister.
Wow.
It's that level of non-recognition that we're talking.
Y aquí tenemos otra parte de lo que dice el Dr. Gardner.
Trump, because of his cognitive decline, is focusing on things like the ballroom and the paper that he writes things on. If any of you have ever had someone who in your family or friends who had dementia, one of the things you'll notice is they'll pick up on one concrete physical detail, and then they'll free associate to that detail, completely leaving the conversation, whatever the original topic of the conversation was. Let's set the stage. He's brought 1,200 generals from around the world, right? For this very important meeting. And you have to forgive me, I automatically go into my Trump voice when I do this. When I have a general and I have to sign for a general because we have beautiful paper, gorgeous paper, I said, put a little more gold on it. They deserve it. I want the A paper, not the D paper. We used to sign that piece of garbage. I said, this guy's going to be a general, right? I want to use the big, beautiful, firm paper. I want to use the real gold writing. After all the work you do to become a general or an admiral, your commission, that commission is beautifully displayed, and I sign it. I actually love my signature. Everybody loves my signature, but I sign it very proudly. And I think to myself, how can you have an auto pen do this? So disrespectful to me. It's totally disrespectful. As it turns out, almost everything he did was by auto pen, except when he gave his son Hunter a pardon. He signed that one. Actually, it's the worst signature I've ever seen. The auto pen looks better. It's right there in plain sight. We're all seeing it, but no one's calling it. It's like the emperor has no brain, but the media is afraid to say it. The professionals.
Y bueno, pues esto no es nuevo, amigos. Recordemos en el año 2019, cuando Trump hizo esa visita repentina del mismo modo a ese hospital, el Walter Reed. Muchos en aquel momento sospecharon que tal vez había sufrido algún tipo de mini derrame cerebral, ¿no? Y bueno, el doctor David Schneider, médico del expresidente Obama, lo explicó así.
His inability to say words sometimes worries me tremendously. He is having trouble word finding when he said United States instead of United States. These aren't words. These aren't slips of the tongue. These are words he can't find them. And this is happening over and over again. Comedians joke about it, but it's not a joking matter. I think there is a neurological issue that is not being addressed. And if he had an MRI of his head over there, I would be very pleased because I think he needs it.
Is that something that could have happened in the 2-hour time he was there?
Yes, it certainly could. And it's the worry that I have is that maybe he's having small strokes. And, we had that once before in the White House when Woodrow Wilson was president. His inability to find words is peculiar and has not been explained. And I think one has to think of it as a possible neurological issue.
Y volviendo justo al tema de la insuficiencia venosa crónica, aquí tenemos a Caroline Leavitt tratando de justificarlo.
Many in the media have been speculating about bruising on the president's hand and also swelling in the president's legs. So in the effort of transparency, the president wanted me to share a note from his physician with all of you today. In recent weeks, President Trump noted mild swelling in his lower legs. In keeping with routine medical care and out of an abundance of caution, this concern was thoroughly evaluated by the White House Medical Unit. The president underwent a comprehensive examination, including diagnostic vascular studies. Bilateral lower extremity venous Doppler ultrasounds were performed and revealed chronic venous insufficiency, a benign and common condition, particularly in individuals over the age of 70. Importantly, there was no evidence of deep vein thrombosis or arterial disease. Laboratory testing included a complete blood count, comprehensive metabolic panel, coagulation profile, D-dimer, B-type natriuretic peptide, and cardiac biomarkers. All results were within normal limits. An echocardiogram was also performed and confirmed normal cardiac structure and function. No signs of heart failure, renal impairment, or systemic illness were identified. Additionally, recent photos of the president have shown minor bruising on the back of his hand. This is consistent with minor soft tissue irritation from frequent handshaking and the use of aspirin, which is taken as part of a standard cardiovascular prevention regimen. This is a well-known and benign side effect of aspirin therapy. And the president remains in excellent health, which I think all of you witness on a daily basis here. So the president wanted me to share that note with all of you. I'm happy to take further questions.
Es más, hasta el gobernador de California, Gavin Newsom, habló públicamente sobre cómo fue su llamada con Trump antes de que éste enviara a la Guardia Nacional. Y dice que la conversación fue algún tipo de caos porque Trump saltaba de tema en tema, no podía mantener una idea coherente, que era incapaz de enfocarse incluso en decisiones graves.
A call that you might have been aware that this was coming, or can you confirm whether or not you knew that this was coming, this order was coming?
Of course not. Yeah, no, absolutely not. We were back and forth with Susie Wiles as chief of staff, and then mayor of Los Angeles, saw a missed call from the president, called him back. I actually texted him back, you want full disclosure? And he called me right back. We discussed for a nanosecond Los Angeles, and he immediately zigged and zagged into 7 or 8 other topics. Some extraordinarily familiar and some extraordinarily remarkable, considering the world we're living in.
Y si es que le quedan dudas a ustedes de esta desconexión con la realidad que tiene Trump, escuchen esto. Hace poco volvió a decir que Portland está completamente en llamas. Y amigos, no lo está. En su momento, hubo pequeños incidentes en una sola manzana. Pero claro, Trump insiste en que toda la ciudad está ardiendo, que se está quemando. Escuchen.
Same thing with Portland, speaking of that, because that's where we want it. But, I mean, I looked the other night, Saturday night, Portland is like burning to the ground, and these people are saying it's just friendly stuff. The whole place is burning to the ground. So we'll take care of that one. That's like an insurrection more than it is anything else. That's crazy. Portland's crazy.
Y bueno, pues ahora anda diciendo que quiere recaudar $350 millones para construir este salón de baile, ¿no? Luego de demoler el ala este de la Casa Blanca. Un salón de baile. O sea que mientras la gente ya no puede pagar el alquiler, ya no se puede costear las medicinas, están perdiendo su seguro médico, Donald Trump obsesionado con un salón de baile.
Have you raised the full $300 million needed to fund your ballroom? And how much specifically are you donating to this construction
project? I think $350 million. All donor money and money that we put up. We've raised, it's going to cost right in the neighborhood of $300 million. It's been expanded and made absolutely, it'll be the most beautiful ballroom anywhere in the world, I think.
And how much specifically are you donating to it personally?
How much am I donating? I won't be able to tell you until I finish, but I'll donate whatever's needed, I'll tell you that.
Ahí lo tienen, amigos. La salud del trumpismo se está deteriorando y muy rápido. Su entorno lo sabe. Lo encubren, lo maquillan. Y mientras tanto, pues, él sigue con delirios, confundiendo palabras, mintiendo sobre su estado. Ahora bien, señores, si esto les preocupa, esto les va a preocupar mucho más. ¿Se imaginan que no solo baste con 2 gobiernos, sino con 3 gobiernos. Sé que suena una locura, pero eso es exactamente lo que acaba de insinuar Steve Bannon. Hablamos de uno de los ex asesores más cercanos a Trump. Y esto lo hizo en una reciente declaración el día de ayer que dejó a medio país con la boca abierta. Lo más inquietante no es lo que dijo Bannon, sino que Trump en varias ocasiones ha alimentado esa idea. Ha vendido gorras con el logo Trump 2028. Ha hecho bromas que no son tan bromas sobre seguir más allá del límite constitucional. Y ha dejado ver que en su mente las reglas solo aplican para los demás. Pero a ver, amigos, ¿qué hay sobre todo esto? ¿Será una simple provocación política? ¿O será que estamos viendo un posible tercer mandato del trumpismo? Veamos de qué se trata.
Joining us now, staff writer at The New Yorker, Susan Glasser, assistant professor of law at Georgia State University, Anthony Michael Kreese, and staff writer for The Atlantic, Franklin Foer, and former Ohio governor and MSNBC political analyst, John Kasich. Thank you all for being with us. And Susan, the president himself has said that a third term is no joke, that he's not joking about this. Should we be now taking Bannon and the president at their word?
Well, look, I mean, Donald Trump is actually actively marketing and selling to his followers Trump 2028 paraphernalia on his campaign website. He has, trolled visitors to the Oval Office by putting Trump 2028 hats in the photo in the Oval Office. So it's not just an idle comment from Steve Bannon, but it represents clearly an effort by Donald Trump and some of his followers to put this out there into the political bloodstream of America. Why are they doing that? Is it just to get people like us, blowing smoke and reading over and over again the very explicit text of the 22nd Amendment? Is it to maintain Donald Trump's relevance? Because remember that essentially Donald Trump is a lame duck president at this point, and there's nothing that Donald Trump fears more than irrelevance or the political world moving on from him. At the same time, he has made moves to challenge aspects of what we would consider to be settled constitutional doctrine that he doesn't like in the past. And so there's no reason to not take him at his word. And I think again and again and again, we have underestimated threats that Trump poses to the constitutional order.
So, Susan, how much influence, do we know how much influence Bannon still wields with the president at this point?
Well, again, it's hard to know. It's an opaque Trump world situation. Donald Trump and Steve Bannon had a contentious relationship. At the same time, Bannon, I think, has proven to be quite an astute analyst of what's going on in MAGA world. He did apparently have lunch with Donald Trump over the summer. And, Trump himself has floated the idea of running again for a third term. So it's not like just an idle comment from Steve Bannon in the sense that Donald Trump has already been out there injecting this into our politics.
Franklin, what's your reaction to Bannon's comments?
I do think that there's an element of trolling, but as Susan says, you look at the East Wing of the White House, it's hard to imagine that they wouldn't try to do whatever they want to any norm or to any American tradition. And I think it's important to go back and to look at the reason why the 22nd Amendment is in place. There was a tradition going back to George Washington that presidents would serve 2 terms. And the reason for that was that we felt as if presidents hung around longer than that, there would be corruption, there would be no check on corruption, that the president himself would become an elective monarch. That was the phrase that people used, the founders used, to describe the threat of a president who stuck around for an extended period of time. After the death of FDR, conservatives in Washington pushed for the 22nd Amendment because they feared dangerous concentrations of power that resided in a president who stuck around for more than 2 terms. And when you hear Steve Bannon talk about President Trump being an instrument of divine will, it does sound as if he's describing him as a monarch. That's the way that people talked about kings and queens in the past. And that's a very un-American thing to talk about.
So even if there's an element of trolling going on here, how dangerous is it that you have these very serious comments coming from the president himself being fed to his supporters, who we saw he has tremendous influence over, if January 6th was any indication of that?
I think it's reflective of a kind of a bottomless ambition to grab as much power as possible. And I think that they will keep pushing and testing the limits of what he can hold on to. And in this instance, I think that they're probably actively testing what's possible.
Professor, from a constitutional law perspective, how ironclad is the 22nd Amendment? And you heard Bannon there. Are there ways that Trump and his allies can circumvent the Constitution or rewrite it?
Well, the 22nd Amendment is ironclad unless you are intent on strangling the entire meaning and intent out of the 22nd Amendment. It's fairly clear that you can't be elected to more than 2 terms of office as president. And the 12th Amendment also makes it clear that you can't run for vice president and be ineligible for the presidency. And so you really have to do a couple of things. One is that you would have to claim that somehow being elected is different from serving. And that's entirely inconsistent with what conservatives in Congress in the late 1940s were attempting to achieve with the 22nd Amendment. And I think, again, you have to look at the history and tradition here, that Americans have traditionally had presidents that serve for 2 terms.
Ok, señores, algunos comentaristas lo descartan, ¿no? Como algún tipo de broma, un tipo de táctica para engañar a los medios. Pero a ver, hay una realidad que no se puede ignorar. Donald Trump lleva años probando hasta dónde puede estirar los límites del sistema. Y eso es justamente el peligro, porque cuando un político autoritario ve que cada provocación, cada violación de la norma, se convierte en solo una exageración más, una broma, termina construyendo una inmunidad mediática, una burbuja donde él puede decir cualquier cosa, incluso puede desafiar a la Constitución en vivo y en directo, y aún así puede seguir manteniendo el control del debate público, de la narrativa. Recordemos que ya vimos esto en el intento de revertir los resultados del año 2020. Lo vimos con el ataque al Capitolio. Y ahora lo vemos otra vez con esta narrativa de un tercer mandato, que claramente, pues, esto es ilegal, señores. Esto lo prohíbe la Constitución de los Estados Unidos. A cualquiera que sea presidente no puede ser elegido más de 2 veces. Ahora, lo preocupante es que este tipo de mensajes funciona como un test, una prueba. Digamos, Donald Trump y Steve Bannon lanzan esta idea al público. Observan la reacción. Y si no hay suficiente rechazo, la vuelven a repetir. Pero claro, ahora un poco más serio. Y más serio cada vez. De ese modo es como se normaliza lo inaceptable. Sé que algunos me dirán, no, que esto no va a pasar. El Congreso nunca lo va a permitir. Y ok, puede que tengan razón. Pero el punto no es si lo logra, sino que lo intenta. Cada vez que intenta cruzar una línea y no hay consecuencias, el límite, ese trazo, se mueve un poquito más. Y ese es el verdadero objetivo, es lo que no entienden. Acostumbrarnos a la idea de que Trump puede hacer lo que quiera, sin rendir cuentas. Además, hay algo simbólico detrás de todo esto. Él no solo busca poder político, él busca permanencia. Él quiere que su nombre quede grabado como el líder que desafió el sistema, el que nunca se fue del todo. Es ese tipo de ambición, tal y como lo dice el analista, que termina siendo una amenaza directa a la tradición democrática. Pero bueno, señores, ¿qué opinan ustedes? ¿Creen que esto es simplemente una estrategia mediática para poder mantener a Trump en el centro de la atención? ¿O que realmente está probando los límites del sistema para ver hasta dónde puede llegar? Los invito a que me dejen sus opiniones en la caja de comentarios. Muchísimas gracias por acompañarme en este video. Recuerda, como siempre, déjame tu like, comparte el contenido y suscríbete al canal. Nos vemos en el próximo video. Hasta luego.